Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Xavier's face as he stirred from his slumber. He blinked away the remnants of sleep, his mind slowly focusing on the day ahead. It was Easter Sunday, and he had agreed to take on a job at the community event. The prospect of donning a fluffy bunny costume and handing out chocolate eggs to excited children seemed like an easy way to make some extra cash. As Xavier got ready, he hummed a cheerful tune, imagining himself hopping around in a cartoonish rabbit suit. He threw on a pair of comfortable jeans and a plain white t-shirt, figuring he'd change into the costume once he arrived at the event. Grabbing his keys, he headed out the door, the spring air crisp against his skin. The community center bustled with activity when Xavier arrived. Colorful decorations adorned every surface, and the excited chatter of volunteers filled the air. He made his way to the organizer's desk, where a woman with a clipboard and a harried expression greeted him. "You must be Xavier," she said, looking up from her papers. "I'm Stephanie, the event coordinator. Thank goodness you're here. We're running behind schedule." Xavier smiled, ready to get started. "No problem. Where can I find the bunny costume?" Stephanie's brow furrowed. "Bunny costume? Oh, there must have been a misunderstanding. You're our Easter bunny girl for today." Xavier's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, what?" Stephanie gestured to a nearby rack of clothing. "The costume is right over there. Pink dress, bunny ears, the works. We'll need to get you into makeup, too." Xavier's eyes widened as he took in the frilly pink monstrosity hanging on the rack. This had to be a joke. He looked back at Stephanie, waiting for her to crack a smile, but her expression remained serious. "There's been a mistake," Xavier said, his voice tight. "I thought I was going to be the Easter bunny, not this." Stephanie's face fell. "Oh no, we desperately need someone for this role. The kids are expecting it, and we've advertised it everywhere." Xavier shook his head, backing away. "I'm sorry, but I can't do this. It's not what I signed up for." As he turned to leave, Stephanie caught his arm. "Please, Xavier, we're in a bind here. The event starts in an hour, and we have no one else. I know it's not ideal, but could you consider it? Just for today?" Xavier hesitated, torn between his discomfort and the pleading look in Stephanie's eyes. He glanced around at the volunteers bustling about, all working hard to make the event a success. The thought of disappointing all those children tugged at his conscience. With a deep sigh, Xavier relented. "Fine, I'll do it. But just for today and never again." Stephanie's face lit up with relief. "Thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. Come on, let's get you ready." The next hour was a blur of fabric, makeup, and Xavier questioning his life choices. He found himself stuffed into a pink dress that barely covered his knees, complete with a fluffy tail and a pair of white stockings. A volunteer with steady hands applied makeup to his face, transforming his features into something more feminine. The final touch was a pair of long, floppy bunny ears perched atop his head. Xavier stared at his reflection in disbelief. The person looking back at him was barely recognizable. The dress hugged her, creating an illusion of a feminine figure. The makeup softened his features, giving him an almost doll-like appearance. He felt ridiculous and exposed. "You look perfect," Stephanie exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "The kids are going to love you." Xavier forced a smile, trying to quell the growing anxiety in his stomach. "Let's just get this over with." As he made his way outside to begin hiding Easter eggs, Xavier couldn't shake the feeling of everyone's eyes on him. He kept his head down, focusing on the task at hand and trying to ignore the occasional snicker or whispered comment from passers-by. While placing a bright blue egg behind a bush, Xavier heard a small voice behind him. "Psst! Hey, you!" He turned, expecting to see a child, but found no one there. Confused, he looked around until his eyes landed on a small white rabbit sitting on the grass nearby. "Down here, big guy," the rabbit said, its nose twitching. Xavier blinked hard, certain he was hallucinating. Did you just talk?" The rabbit rolled its eyes. "Of course I did. I'm one of the Easter Bunny's magical helpers. Name's Thumper." Xavier glanced around, wondering if this was some elaborate prank. "This can't be real." Thumper hopped closer. "Oh, it's real, all right. And it looks like you could use some help. That outfit isn't exactly working for you, is it?" Xavier flushed with embarrassment. "It's not my choice. I'm just doing this as a favor." The rabbit nodded sympathetically. "Well, how about I offer you a solution? I've got a pair of enchanted bunny ears that can temporarily transform you into a woman. It might make this whole experience a bit easier for you." Xavier's jaw dropped. "You're joking, right? Magic ears that can change my gender?" Thumper produced a pair of pink, glittery bunny ears from seemingly nowhere. "No joke! These ears are imbued with powerful transformation magic. Put them on and you'll become the woman you're pretending to be. Take them off and you'll go back to normal. Simple as that." Xavier eyed the ears skeptically. This whole situation was absurd, but then again, he was already dressed as a bunny girl and talking to a magical rabbit. What did he have to lose? With a deep breath, Xavier reached for the ears. "I can't believe I'm doing this, but here goes nothing." As soon as the enchanted ears touched his head, a tingling sensation spread throughout Xavier's body. He gasped as he felt his form shifting, bones and muscles rearranging themselves. His chest expanded, filling out the dress in ways it hadn't before. His waist narrowed, hips widened, and facial features softened further. When the transformation was complete, Xavier, now Xandra, stared down at her new body in amazement. The dress that had looked ridiculous on her male form now fit perfectly. She ran her hands over her face, feeling the softer contours and fuller lips. "Well, would you look at that?" Thumper said with a grin. "Suits you better now, doesn't it?" Xandra's voice came out higher and melodious as she replied. "This is incredible. I can't believe it actually worked." Thumper winked. "Magic always works, sweetheart. Now, you've got an event to run. Go knock 'em dead." With newfound confidence, Xandra straightened her dress and headed back towards the main event area. As she walked, she marveled at how different everything felt. The sway of her hips, the bounce of her chest, even the way the grass tickled her bare legs. The event was in full swing when Xandra arrived. Children ran about excitedly, searching for hidden eggs and showing off their findings to proud parents. Xandra found herself easily slipping into her role, greeting kids with a cheerful voice and posing for countless photos. As she made her way through the crowd, Xandra noticed the change in how people interacted with her. Where before she had received confused or amused looks, now she was met with warm smiles and appreciative glances. She found herself enjoying the attention, basking in the compliments on her costume and the children's excitement to meet the Easter Bunny girl. While helping a young girl find an especially well-hidden egg, Xandra felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find herself face-to-face with one of the other volunteers, a tall, handsome man with a charming smile. "Hi there," he said, his eyes twinkling. "I'm Steve. I don't think we've met before. Are you new to the volunteer group?" Xandra felt a flutter in her stomach, a sensation entirely new to her. "Oh, yes, I'm Xandra. Nice to meet you." Steve's smile widened. "Xandra? That's a beautiful name. Listen, I was wondering if you might want to grab a coffee after the event. To celebrate a job well done." Xandra found herself blushing, the warmth spreading across her cheeks. This was territory she'd never navigated before, being flirted with as a woman. Part of her wanted to explain the situation, to tell Steve that this wasn't her real form. But another part, a growing part, was curious about where this might lead. "That sounds lovely," Xandra heard herself say. "I'd like that." As the day progressed, Xandra found herself growing more comfortable in her new skin. She laughed more freely, moved with greater ease, and even caught herself flirting back with Steve on occasion. The initial shock of her transformation gave way to a sense of exhilaration and freedom. When the event finally wound down, Xandra helped with the cleanup, chatting easily with the other volunteers. She had almost forgotten about her magical secret until Stephanie approached her with a beaming smile. "Xandra, you were absolutely fantastic today. The kids adored you. Would you consider coming back for our summer festival? We could use someone with your energy and charm." Xandra hesitated, her hand unconsciously reaching for the enchanted ears. I'm not sure. Can I think about it?" Stephanie nodded enthusiastically. "Of course, just let me know. And thank you again for today. You really saved us." As the sun began to set, Xandra made her way to a quiet corner of the park. She took a deep breath, preparing herself to remove the magical ears and return to her male form. But as her fingers brushed against the soft fur, she hesitated. The day had been unlike anything she'd ever experienced. The way people had treated her, the new sensations and emotions she'd felt. It was all so intoxicating. The thought of giving it up so soon made her heart ache. "Just a little longer," Xandra whispered to herself, lowering her hand. "I'm not ready to let this go yet." She made her way home, still in her transformed state, curious to see how the world would react to her beyond the confines of the Easter event. As she walked down the street, she noticed heads turning, smiles being thrown her way. It was a far cry from the invisibility she often felt as Xavier. Arriving at her apartment building, Xandra hesitated before entering. What if her neighbors recognized her? What if they saw through the magic? But as she passed the first few residents in the hallway, she was met only with polite nods and friendly hellos. Inside her apartment, Xandra stood before the full-length mirror in her bedroom, truly taking in her transformed appearance for the first time. The pink dress still hugged her, and her makeup remained flawless despite the long day. She ran her hands over her body, marveling at the softness of her skin, the curve. A mix of emotions swirled within her: excitement, confusion, fear, and something else she couldn't quite name. This body felt foreign and, yet, somehow right. It was as if she'd discovered a part of herself that had always been there, hidden beneath the surface. Xandra's phone buzzed, startling her out of her reverie. It was a text from Steve, confirming their coffee date for the next day. Her heart raced as she typed out a reply, agreeing to meet him at a local cafe. As she prepared for bed, Xandra debated removing the magical ears. Surely, she thought, she should return to her male form to sleep. But the thought of waking up as Xavier felt wrong somehow. With a mix of anticipation and nervousness, she decided to keep the ears on, curious to see what the morning would bring. Sleep came easily, her dreams filled with swirling colors and the laughter of children searching for Easter eggs. When Xandra awoke the next morning, she half expected to find herself back in Xavier's body. But as she stretched and yawned, she felt the now familiar weight and the softness of her skin. Excitement bubbled up inside her as she realized she had a whole day ahead to explore this new identity. She spent the morning experimenting with her wardrobe, trying on clothes she'd never dared to before. Skirts, dresses, blouses. Each item of clothing felt like a new discovery. As the time for her coffee date with Steve approached, Xandra felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation. She chose a flowy sundress in a soft blue that complemented her eyes, paired with delicate sandals. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized herself, and yet she'd never felt more authentic. The cafe was bustling when Xandra arrived. She spotted Steve at a corner table, his face lighting up as he saw her approach. The butterflies in her stomach intensified as she sat down across from him. "Xandra, you look amazing," Steve said, his eyes warm. "I have to admit, I was a little worried you might not show up. Sometimes people make plans at events and then change their minds." Xandra smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm glad I came. Yesterday was quite an experience. I wasn't sure what to expect." They fell into easy conversation, discussing the Easter event, their volunteer work, and their lives outside of it. Xandra found herself opening up, sharing parts of herself she'd never revealed before. albeit with some necessary editing to hide her magical transformation. As they talked, Xandra couldn't help but notice the way Steve looked at her. His gaze was appreciative, kind, and filled with an interest that made her pulse quicken. She found herself mirroring his body language, leaning in closer, laughing at his jokes, and feeling a connection she'd never experienced as Xavier. Their coffee date stretched into lunch and then a walk in the nearby park. As they strolled side by side, their hands brushed against each other. Xandra felt a jolt of electricity at the contact, and before she knew it, Steve had gently laced his fingers with hers. The sun was setting by the time they said goodbye, with promises to see each other again soon. Xandra floated home on a cloud of happiness, her mind replaying every moment of their time together. It wasn't until she was back in her apartment that reality came crashing down. The magical ears still sat atop her head, a reminder that this wasn't her true form. Xandra's hand hovered over them, knowing she should remove them, should return to being Xavier. But the thought filled her with an inexplicable sadness. As she debated what to do, her phone rang. It was her best friend, Michael. Xandra hesitated before answering, unsure how the magic would affect phone conversations. "Hello?" she said tentatively. "Hey, Xandra!" Michael's voice came through, sounding completely normal. "How'd the Easter gig go yesterday? Sorry I couldn't make it to see you in action." Xandra blinked in surprise. Michael was talking to her as if she'd always been Xandra. The magic of the ears seemed to extend beyond just her physical appearance. It had altered everyone's memories and perceptions. It went really well," Xandra replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Actually, something interesting happened. I met someone." Michael's excitement was palpable through the phone. "No way! Tell me everything." As Xandra recounted her day with Steve, she found herself relaxing. Talking to Michael as Xandra felt natural, as if they'd always had this kind of relationship. When she hung up, she felt a renewed sense of confusion. How far did this magic go? How long could she maintain this dual identity? Over the next few weeks, Xandra found herself living two lives. During the day, she embraced her new identity, going on more dates with Steve, hanging out with friends who now knew her only as Xandra, and even picking up more volunteer work at community events. At night, alone in her apartment, she would remove the ears and return to Xavier's body, trying to reconcile the two versions of herself. But as time passed, Xandra found herself keeping the ears on for longer periods. She began to dread the moments when she had to transform back into Xavier. The male body that had once been so familiar now felt awkward and wrong. It was during a quiet evening at home, after another wonderful date with Steve, that Xandra finally confronted the truth she'd been avoiding. Staring at her reflection, soft curves, long hair, delicate features, she realized that this was who she truly was. The magical ears hadn't just transformed her body, they had allowed her to become the person she was always meant to be. With trembling hands, Xandra reached up and removed the enchanted ears. But instead of the usual transformation, nothing happened. Her female form remained unchanged. Panic gripped her for a moment before a sense of profound relief washed over her. The magic had become permanent, a gift from the universe, allowing her to live authentically. In that moment, Xandra made a decision. She would embrace this new life fully, without fear or reservation. The ears had served their purpose, showing her a truth about herself she might never have discovered otherwise. As weeks turned into months, Xandra's life blossomed in ways she never could have imagined. Her relationship with Steve deepened, built on genuine connection and mutual understanding. Her friendships grew stronger as she allowed herself to be vulnerable and open in ways Xavier never could. She threw herself into her volunteer work with renewed passion, finding purpose in helping others and building community. There were challenges, of course. Xandra had to navigate the complexities of living as a woman in a world that wasn't always kind or fair. She faced discrimination and misunderstanding at times, but she also found strength in the support of those who loved her for who she truly was. 1 year after that fateful Easter Sunday, Xandra found herself back at the community center, once again dressed as the Easter Bunny girl. But this time there was no discomfort, no sense of pretending. As she handed out candy and posed for photos with excited children, she felt a deep sense of joy and belonging. During a quiet moment, Xandra spotted a familiar white rabbit hopping nearby. Thumper winked at her before disappearing into the bushes. Xandra smiled, silently thanking the magical creature for the gift of transformation, not just of her body, but of her entire life. As the sun set on another successful Easter event, Xandra walked hand in hand with Steve, surrounded by the warmth of community and the promise of a bright future. She had undergone a rebirth more profound than she could have ever imagined, emerging as her true self, confident, happy, and deeply connected to the world around her. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.